Hey everybody, welcome to the Diabetes Empowerment Summit. I am your co-host, Danielle Hargenrader, founder of the Diabetes Empowerment Summit, Diabetes Dominator Coaching, and Love Yourself to Help group coaching membership. I am so excited to bring you my amazing co-host today, who I have known for a while, but have actually never interviewed. So actually this is new for both of us. And her name is Qiana Drew. She is a mom, a singer, an actress. She is a diabetes peer mentor and educator, and she's the founder of Diabetic Wellness Culture on Instagram. And I am beyond grateful to have her here with me today. Qiana, thank you for joining, and how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be interviewed by you and to be a part of the Diabetes Empowerment Summit. And I will share a little story on here just for people who don't know, but it's amazing to now be co-host of the Diabetes Empowerment Summit, and it's great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, the pleasure is definitely mine because working with you is always a pleasure. But before we get into where we are now, the present, let's talk about a little bit about the past and kind of the journey that you went on to get from the day you were diagnosed, which was about 19 years ago, to now, because we know that just like most of us, there were some pretty big bumps in the road that may have made you feel like this day right now may never have come. So give us a little bit of background, diagnosis and the journey that you went on to get here today.
Yeah, so it'll be 19 years actually in July, the end of July, because I was diagnosed a few days before a big birthday, that big 21, which is you have your different milestones. So when I was diagnosed, I didn't know much about diabetes. I had just heard about it a few months prior. And so I really didn't know all of the nuances and what all of that really meant or what it would mean for my life. I didn't look at it as, I was not fearful when I was diagnosed. The doctor said, just as long as you take your insulin and your carb counts. And once again, I still didn't understand how to do any of those things correctly. And we all guesstimate, we just continue to fine tune along the way. But at that point during diagnosis, it was, I just thought to myself, I think that I can handle this. And here I am, super young and excited and of a certain age where I'm starting to get some freedom and some independence. And my parents are, letting me go out. They've lifted the curfew and things of that sort. So, and it was a really special time in my life because ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to sing, I wanted to dance, act, model, and I was right at the very beginning of that. I had started right after high school, pursuing a music career, and I had just signed a production deal with someone who has been working with everyone from Beyonce to Lady Gaga, everyone. So here I am, this, young and tender and excited about life. And I'm just like, yeah, there's diabetes. I'm still going to crush my goals. But what I didn't realize was how diabetes will find its way into every little part of your life. And if you don't give it the proper attention, if you don't accept that you have it, if you don't accept the responsibility that you have in managing your diabetes, because no one else can do this for you, then it's going to creep up and bite you in the butt. And it did. So over time, how I got to where I am today, where I feel empowered, I feel like I have the tools and the mindset to manage my diabetes successfully for me. And that doesn't mean that I don't have hard days or I don't have days where there's insulin resistance or I don't necessarily know why my sugar's high and I'm sure I bolus correctly.
The wind blew the wrong way and then your blood, yep, exactly.
We all happen.
Yep.
Right. But I was struggling with something much darker and deeper that was getting in the way of me managing my blood sugar as I was pursuing a music career and basically trying to keep up appearances and keep up with the Joneses. And there was a lot of people in the entertainment industry that I was surrounded around, and they all looked perfect to me because most people in the entertainment industry have to keep up appearances, so makeup must always be done, hair, nails, you must always be a certain size, especially for females. And so I was stuck on a particular number that I wanted on the scale, but I was never really stuck on the one number because I've gotten to the number and then I'm like, well, let me see how much less I can weigh.
Mm.
And I ended up with an eating disorder that we call diabulimia, but the medical term is
EDDMT1. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
EDDMT1.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggled with that for so long. I mean, to be sitting here today talking to you, I count my blessings because I think about how that could very well not be the case, because it was really something that it was like a dark cloud, and I felt like I was bound in chains. Like there, I couldn't get out of this cycle.
Yeah.
And the cycle was wake up, get on the scale. No, wake up, go use the bathroom, get on the scale.
Yeah.
And then say, am I going to take my insulin today? Or maybe I'll push it one more day to see if I can get another 2 pounds down by the end of the day. Because I was losing more water than, a lot of water.
And muscle.
Muscle.
Yes.
And boy, did that get in the way of my performance.
Hmm.
There were, as entertainers, people only see lights, camera, action on the stage when you have to turn on. They don't see all the work that goes behind the show. And there's hours and hours of dancing and hours of studio time. I mean, I was in the studio for weeks and for months on end, up until 6 in the morning sometimes. But I don't have the energy to do that when my blood sugars are running at 500.
I mean, thinking about it, for me, it's like if my blood sugar is over 200, I feel like I'm sludging through mud with every step I take. So I can't even imagine how difficult that must have felt for you to be performing
I can't
at that level.
Even do that today. I feel the same way. If I'm at 180, I feel it. And I'm like, oh, I feel so tired.
Yes.
But that's the perfect way to put it, sludging through mud.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt. And I had moments late at night where no one else is, the house is sound asleep. Reminds me of like Christmas and Santa Claus coming in. But it's like that midnight, not even midnight, it's like that 3 o'clock in the morning hour where you hear nothing but silence. And you hear nothing but the whisper of, I feel like it's God. It's your soul wanting to save you.
Yes.
Saying you have to do something about this. You can't do this anymore.
Yes. Your intuition
and I had
is speaking to you. Mm-hmm.
That whisper's so loud too. It's a really loud whisper. And being in the entertainment industry, and I was able to kind of dull that whisper because all these exciting things were happening, and I was around these celebrities, and I was shooting videos, and I was making my dreams come true. So I would just dull down the whisper. But when no one was looking, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there with this high blood sugar, pain. I had some gastroparesis happening. Like I wasn't able to digest my food, blurred vision, constantly going to the bathroom. And just, I would have that moment where I'm like, Qiana, you got to have you ever had that talk with yourself where you're just like, you got to do something about this?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go well for you.
And that's kind of what I want to know. That was it just one like aha moment, or was it a kind of a buildup over time, like a cumulative buildup of all of those whispers turning into like a yelling? What was the pivot point for you to actually decide to do something different for your health? Because you knew that it wasn't going to last much longer. And by it, I mean possibly life, if you were not going to change.
It was definitely a buildup.
Yeah.
It was a buildup over time. And once I hit my 30s, it was right before I became pregnant. I had this moment once again that I said, let me give this a try. Let me really try. And I want to say that was the beginning of me trying to change my mindset and let my main goal no longer be losing weight, but it be being alive.
Yeah.
And having gratitude for my life. um, and thinking about what I wanted out of my life, because all I thought about was just one thing. And to be honest with you, when I hit my 30s, early 30s, things started to slow down, and I wasn't working as much in the music industry, and I was starting to ask myself, and this happens, like artists have, high and low moments, and I was hitting a low moment where I was asking myself, man, am I good enough? I don't know if I'm good enough. Maybe, I had to dust myself off and try again. But I saw myself getting older, and I'm like, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. My family's like everybody's taking these next steps, and here I am, I don't have a husband, and I don't have kids. And I met someone, and I actually got married really, really fast. It didn't work out, but we're cool. But it was all a part of really my journey of starting to unravel the pieces of myself that weren't going to serve who I wanted to become, who I was supposed to become, who I am becoming.
Right.
And so I got married, and then I told him that I did this thing that nobody knows about, which was not take my insulin.
Telling one person. That's the step I'm looking for, and I didn't even know this, but that's how it happened. But that's kind of one of the big thing about heavy secrets that we keep, is that the path to healing starts with telling one person. And so I'm so happy that happened. Thank God, thank Goddess that you are here. But yes, continue. Yes.
Yes, I told one person, I told him, and he didn't shame me. He said, wow, I didn't even know that people did anything like that, and reminded me of all the life I've yet to live.
Yeah.
And what, he saw for me, and he would just be my encouragement. He didn't shame me through it. He may have asked me every so often, he would see certain signs and say, are you doing that thing again? And I'd, put my head down, and he would be like, it's okay. I know it's hard. What can I do to help you? I think just reminding, sometimes when you don't have enough love for yourself, it does help when you have somebody telling you that they love you, telling you they want you to be here, telling you that you're beautiful, when you don't feel that you don't have it in you to tell yourself.
Yes.
And it did, it helped. Then I quickly became pregnant I actually found out I was pregnant the day after I married him.
Wow.
So that was crazy. And talk about having to jump on board with doing everything right that you never did before.
Wow.
I tried to do it, but not to this level of intensity.
And you had another level of motivation, the baby.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
So then that was then the catalyst for me to be the best that I ever could be for the life inside of me, right? But after I had her, I did kind of slid back into my old ways. And my second pregnancy, I got back on the saddle. I'm like, I have to do the right thing. I was going through some stressful moments at that time, especially in my marriage. So it was rocky at that time. And I couldn't get my A1C under a 5.8, and I was getting shamed by the doctors during my pregnancy, saying, the baby's going to die, your sugar's too high. But by the time she was born, my A1C was a 5.8. She did have to stay in the NICU for a little while because she was overproducing insulin for my high blood sugars. But she stayed in there for a week, and she's perfectly fine. I want to say within the 3 months of having my second daughter is when I had that aha moment, because I found myself single, 2 kids, and figuring out what I was going to do with my life, and looking at these 2 babies and saying, you deserve better, and I can't leave you.
Yes, they deserve all of you, the full you. Yes, yes.
And so that was the catalyst for me saying, I won't ever do this again. So within the 3 months of having her, I did kind of slip back old ways, trying to see how much weight I could lose after having her. And I had gotten so tired and so sick. I'm pretty sure I was in DKA, but I didn't want to go to the doctor. And I said a prayer. I remember saying a prayer and saying, I'm never going to do this again. That's it. I don't care how much weight I gain. I'm never going to do this again. And I didn't. And I haven't.
Yeah.
That was in 2014.
Yes. And that's so beautiful. And I think for me, for having been working in behavior change for 10 years and walking so many people through what seem like impossible behavior changes, that kind of example, although there was so much accumulation prior to it, oftentimes that change happens in one decision. People think that that's impossible, but actually what I found is that ends up being the way that it does happen, where that final decision is made and you're just saying, no, I'm deciding. The actual word decision means to cut off from any other option. So that's what you did, and you literally cut it. You cut the boat from the shore. You cut your kind of connection to that and just floated away, not sure what was going to happen, but knowing that whatever was going to happen away from there was going to be better than was happening there. And I think it's just so, for me, it's just so encouraging and inspiring, and just that knowing that it's possible. I think we probably just talked about this recently, just that you asked me the question about, what would I tell my younger self, and that it's possible. Because as soon as you open your mind up to just a little bit that it's possible, your awareness starts looking for other ways to prove that's true.
True.
Did you find yourself kind of cascading in that direction after you made that decision? And how did it happen? I know you might not know exactly, but I think a lot of people out there watching may have gone through or are currently going through that accumulation of whisper process, where they're not yet at that, I'm cutting off any other possibility. This is not going to happen again. So what happened after that? Yeah, go ahead.
I think everyone's decision, moment of like cut off,
Mm-hmm.
not doing this anymore, I'm cutting off from all other options. It comes at different times, but it is over time, those little whispers adding up. And then how I pursued after I made the decision, I used visualization. I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. But now that I encourage other people now, and I teach the diabetes seminars, I'm like, oh, that's how I did it. Mm-hmm. Every day, I would just think about this person I've yet to meet, this person I've yet to become. And I think about how I check my sugar regularly, and I would take my insulin regularly, and I would eat intuitively, all of that. I would imagine this person that I have yet to become. And then I would consciously make choices. And I would think of every opportunity that presented itself would be, to me, here is a moment to decide to pour into this person that you are becoming.
Yeah.
So make the decision that's in alignment with that. And that's how I did it.
So you were present. That's what you
very present.
And that's the kind of the crux of all behavior change, is being present in each moment and making those decisions in that moment. The other thing that you said that, kind of spiritually related, because you know how I am. Qiana knows how I am, but it's like imagining the thing that you want is already realized, because it is. If you've already thought about it, there is a version of reality where that existence already exists, and so you are acting as if. I don't like fake it till you make it. That's and it is what it is. I'm not, if that works for somebody, that's okay. But I just like to say act as if. Act as if you already are that person. You know how that person's going to act because you've already visualized it. So when you're in that moment of decision and you act as if you're already that person, then you literally just said that. And it's beautiful how you instinctually just did that, right? Nobody even had to teach you. You just listened to your inner voices, right?
Right. Voice. That whisper had all the, listen to the whisper. It has like golden information. It knows the way.
Yes.
It does.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. And so here you are now, sitting here, right? And so Qiana does work with Beyond Type 1 and talking about her journey with diabulimia, and you're working with a bunch of other organizations now, because that's kind of why I'm here, is because I turned what I like to say, tragedy into triumph, adversity into advantage. And for me, that triumph or advantage always involves helping other people. For me, that's like the driving force behind everything I do is to, I always say if I can help one more person open up one more idea of possibility, then my day is, fulfilled. And I know you kind of act in that way as well. So did you always want to do advocacy work, or did that kind of come up after your healing?
It's funny, that now that I think back on it, I remember when I was signed to Arista Records, I had a single out, and I remember they were talking about different things that they wanted us as a girl group to do. And I said, I've heard of JDRF, and I want to be able to do stuff with the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation because I'm a type 1 diabetic. And so, our publicist at the time said, I'm going to look into that. And I remember starting to feel some guilt and shame behind my desire to want to represent an organization and speak or do advocacy work when I myself was struggling. I'm like, oh my God, am I a poser here? And I remember thinking to myself, thinking that with the entertainment industry, then that would bring some notoriety and some fame, and then I can make an impact. What a lie. You don't need to be famous to make an impact.
That's for sure. And you also don't need to be which is not even a real thing, 100% on top of your own game, because there's literally no such thing as perfect. Perfection is the dirtiest word to me because it's a self-sabotage maneuver. Like, oh, I'm not going to do this unless it's perfect. I'm not going to go put my work out into the world unless it's perfect. You don't even know what perfect means. You just made up that word. It's not even a real thing. So I hear you, because I often go through that same process, writing and all this other stuff. It's like, oh, it's not perfect. You don't need to be famous. You certainly don't need to be 100% on top of your game to completely change someone else's life for the better, which you and me and every other advocate that's out there has already proven, because no one of us is perfect. It's not a thing. So
that was one of the beginnings of a disempowering belief. But now that I'm doing the work that I'm doing today, I think back on that old me and how I was thinking. In no way am I perfect today, but it got me to a place where once I proved to myself that I can get out of the mindset I was in, and I can push through diabulimia, where it was no longer the struggle that it was for me, and I essentially became my own hero. I didn't have any other diabetes friends. Sometimes I look back at all these camps, and I didn't have a camp to go to. They have adult camps now for diabetes, which is awesome too. Yeah. I need to go to one of those.
Yeah. When COVID's over, yeah. So.
When COVID's over.
Yeah.
But I essentially had to be my own inspiration and empower myself, and affirm and reaffirm what it means to live with diabetes, in a positive way,
in a way where you can feel good.
He's turned it around, and now it's a part of your work. It's part of what you do. It's part of your passion.
Yeah.
And once I got to that place where I was no longer bound by these chains and I was doing much better, I'm like, I want to help other people. That's what I said. I feel confident enough to go out and help other people and tell them how I did it. I offer any type of advice, education. And so then I decided to go to school. And I was still on my journey. I had just got the Dexcom, and I had just got an insulin pump. And I was one of those like young people who's like, I don't want that. I don't want to wear those things. I'm going to feel like I'm handicapped, and crop tops are all the rave. It's going to mess up my outfit. And I was just getting out of that mindset, disempowering beliefs. And I got the tools and started college, and I've been going to school for nutrition. It's food science, nutrition, and wellness with a minor in public health. So I've been chipping away at that degree. And while I was in school, I started to talk more about my diabetes. I would never tell people I was diabetic, but I started to speak more about just being open with my teachers and other students and coworkers. And either I would find other people who were like diabetics in the wild.
Yeah.
Or I'd always find someone who knew someone who was diabetic.
Yeah.
And that led me to the Anchor Holds, which I'm still operating. I'm still mentoring under what I call the Anchor Holds, but essentially it's a mentorship program for people who need to set they need someone to help them set the foundation for diabetes management. And I started teaching people who are around the same age I was when I was diagnosed. So 18, 19, 20, 21, which is a rocky time when you're in college and, you know, everyone's eating the cheese fries and pizza, and how do you navigate that, and how do you change your relationship with your diabetes?
Yeah.
And then eventually a friend of mine said, you need to go on Instagram, and you need to set up an Instagram account, and you're going to find other people like you. And I thought, I don't know. So then I did, and that's where I found a Diabetic Wellness Culture. And I started looking for people just like me, and I found this diabetic online community, and I was like, wow, we are out here.
We are out here.
There's so many people online with diabetes, and you know, it's really cool to see, and I feel essentially we're all anchors for each other. So essentially being an anchor in those stormy seas are the highs and lows, blood sugars, waves that we have to ride sometimes. And we need that anchor to keep us afloat and to keep us encouraged and inspired.
And also I didn't think about it till now because I've known about the Anchor Holds, but what it also does is it gives us, if you think about it kind of representatively, it gives us, the vessel, a time and a place to slow down and stop and be and just hold for, we don't always need to be running forward into the next goal. And you know me, I'm very goal oriented, but I'm also very self-care oriented, self-awareness, self-respect, self-worth. And I'm much more kind of now after 10 years in my career, in the beginning, I was much more about doing. Got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this, and this, and this. And now I've kind of come to a place where I'm much more about being. And I think that anchor allows you to just be. If you say, you know, even like thinking about it, I'm thinking about representative of my mind. I'm like, well, you know what? I realize right now I'm close to burnout. I'm going to throw that anchor down and stop and hold. I just got goosebumps. I don't even know if you were thinking about that, but I've talked to you about this before and I never thought about that. I think that's very valuable mental visualization as those of us with diabetes. We need to slow down and just chill for a little while, gather ourselves up, and then move forward, which is something I think pretty much all of us don't do enough of. So yes, anchor holding. I love it. So I could ask you a million questions, but I want to turn the table on you just for one question, because you asked me a really great question when you interviewed me, which was, what do you know? And that's kind of I'll give the same kind of background. It's like, what do you know in your heart? We just talked about the intuition and listening to the voices and hearing them. And what do you know in your heart and soul, whether it's about diabetes or life or anything? Because you always say about me, I'm wise, but I think you're extraordinarily wise. So I want to know, what does Qiana know?
What do I know? I know nothing. I know that I know nothing. No.
That's not true.
No. It just reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever watched Game of Thrones.
You know nothing, Jon Snow?
Jon Snow. Nothing.
It's not true. You know more than Jon Snow.
What do I know for sure? For me, what I do know for sure is that if you change your perspective about your challenges and your struggles, and you see where it's actually preparing you, it's helping you to build character. But if you're able to actually look at it from afar, like the forest despite the trees, as if not so much I'm getting beat down, but like, what is the message here? That you're able to turn it around and you're able to get through it a lot faster, but also less, it'll be less painful.
Yeah.
It's almost like a letting go, knowing that just like the squirrels and the birds get their food without having to worry about it.
Yeah.
The flowers get the sun, without having to worry about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they didn't get beat down by the rain because there was a storm. But you know what? The clouds open up, the rainbow appears, the sun comes, dries up the water, and the flower will brighten up again.
Yes,
it is a cycle, and if you look at life that way, what I know for sure is that you're able to change your perspective about your struggles, your trials, and your tribulations, and you look at it as there's a message here, and not so much it's life beating you down, but maybe it's life raising you up.
Yes.
Then you're able to get the message.
Yeah.
And know that you'll get through it. I mean,
that's beautiful. I mean,
you'll need to know how you're going to get through it.
And most likely, if you're caught up in how, you're not present, because the how doesn't matter. I can tell you that, and again, I know it's easier said than done, because I also used to be obsessed with the how and the being productive and all this other stuff and making sure I'm checking all the boxes. But really what all of that you just said to me literally spoke directly to my soul. But it's about resilience and abundance. Like, nature is resilient and nature is abundant, and we are nature. Literally, we are nature. So whatever needs to happen is happening, and if we're willing to shift the way we're looking at it, we'll probably find a lesson that will allow us to go so much further than we ever imagined. And again, your wisdom knows no bounds. So no, I love it. So I was going to say, what else is going on? What else do you want to tell folks about yourself, about, what you have coming up and what's going on in your life? Any other words of wisdom you want to share, or just really anything? Open floor.
Well, I'm actually really looking forward to creating. I've been in the studio for maybe about 7 months or so, on and off, but now my vision is getting clearer when it comes to what I want this album to be about. And I have been putting together songs that are to help inspire, uplift. There'll be some fun stuff in there too. So I'm going to release that, I would say probably top of next year. Okay. But I'm in the studio now, and I'm working with Eric Dowd, who, Eric.
Yeah, I know.
Right, founder of Diabadass.com. But he just put together a film, the Together Type, and he asked for a song. And so I was excited for this opportunity. And after seeing the film, it does talk about, what we go through as people with diabetes, but also, the fear and the uncertainty surrounding COVID right now, and just where everyone's been home and life is not what we know it, what we've known it to be. So he had asked me to put a song together for the opening credits. So I'm working on that. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Yeah.
And just being more creative, going forward, because there was a time that I had no vision for myself, and when you don't have a vision for yourself, that's when you kind of are walking around living life willy-nilly, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
And that's when life starts to happen to you, because you don't necessarily have a point of reference for yourself, and that takes being still.
Yeah.
And I was still for a moment. I needed to be still, and I needed to pour into myself and look at all those pieces that weren't working for me. And it had to do with my diabetes management and diabulimia. After I had my kids, I needed to rediscover who I was. After having kids, you're like, okay, who am I?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in debt to you guys, like just, food and clothes, and it's a lot, and you forget about who you are. but I was already going through so much before having them. So I had to kind of redefine myself.
Yes. And I think it's important that we do that continually. I think that's such a beautiful point that you made. I work with a lot of people who are mothers, and that's one of the biggest kind of things I'll often say, when's the last time you were able to spend 1 hour alone? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't remember, or whatever the case might be. And I'm not a parent, and I won't pretend to be one. However, I've worked with a lot of families before, and losing your identity and only associating your identity with parent can be very painful, because you're distancing yourself from your other amazing God-given talents and purposes in life. They're being a parent and achieving goals are not mutually exclusive. And I'm not saying you have to have goals, but I'm saying if you do, only being mom can feel bad. And I think the whole point is we want to feel good. And I think that opening up that knowledge that you can do more and you can do both. And in this process, I'm sure you're teaching your beautiful girls the same lessons, right? To see what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am. So, and when you pour into yourself and your parent, the kids are going to benefit from that. They're going to have a much happier mom, a much less stressed out mom, and they're going to learn so much more from you about joy and how to live life.
Yeah. And when they see mommy pouring into herself, they also know that that's important for them to continue doing as a practice for the rest of their lives. So it's a beautiful kind of upward spiral of, do as I do, not just as I say.
Not as I say, I know,
right? We could sit here and talk for hours and hours, but we want to keep this reasonable for people to watch. Any other thing that you want to add before we wrap this up? Because like I said, I could just sit here and talk to you forever. Your story is so inspiring, even though I've known it, and just hearing, I've never heard it in this format, so it's different. You experience the different perspective, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm so grateful to know you. So any other things you want to add for the audience? And you guys are watching her now, you get to see her interview a bunch of other people too, so I don't know when you're seeing this, but go watch her interviews too.
There's this song, there's this singer, her name is Shalia. And there's a song that I love, and it's really just an affirmation. So what I actually want to leave here with is just to sing a bit of this song.
Yes.
Because if anybody is going through, I was just talking about a time in my life where I didn't have a vision for myself, and I felt like I wasn't enough, and they're just kind of wondering, where do I start? Well, start by knowing that you are enough.
Yes.
And the song goes, you are enough. You have everything that you need to succeed. And you sing, I am enough. I have everything that I need to succeed. It's already in you. So make your dreams come true. It's true. It's already in you. So make your dreams come true. It's true.
I literally have goosebumps on my entire legs. I thank you so much for sharing your beautiful voice, both in spoken word and in song. And we won't even get into the story about how we met, but I am just so excited for seeing what the future brings, and getting to have the opportunity to co-create things with you is a blessing. So thank you so very much, Qiana, for being here.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you so much. All right. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed this interview, and go enjoy the rest of the interviews. And both Qiana and myself will see you in the other interviews. Take care.
Yes. Bye.